This is episode number 24 of the Silvertrac Extra.
Thanks for tuning in to the Silvertrac Extra, your source for the best tips, tricks, and how-tos to dominate the security industry, helping you improve your business, win more contracts, and crush your competition. Here are your hosts, Chris Anderson and Johnny Page.
What's up, everybody? My name is Johnny Page. I am joined here with Chris Anderson, and we're here on episode number 24 of the Silvertrac Extra. And today we're talking about how to find a great security guard while using Craigslist. And today, I'd love to find out first, Chris, what was it like back before the internet was really around when you were trying to find and hire quality security guards?
Well, that's a great one. What I usually had to do is I had to jump in my car late at night and drive around to other property or accounts, and I'd look for guards and I'd steal them. I'd watch them, see how they perform. I'm not joking. I actually do that. I'd actually drive and watch, or I'd see guards at other locations that look sharp, and I'd collect a business card, and then I'd kind of come back and keep an eye on them and see if I could steal them. Sounds cruel, but it's the truth.
Wow, dog-eat-dog world out there, huh?
Yeah, it was just one of the things. And what I also did is because I was on the department, the other way I found them was, the sheriff explorers. They're pretty dedicated. They go through an academy, and they're always looking for advancement or using security as a stepping stone to get in law enforcement. So I use that to my advantage in helping them later when they decided to go that direction. If they were good employees, of course.
Yeah, interesting. Well, certainly the landscape or the industry has changed now with internet and technology. And I think one of the major ways that companies are finding employees are through sites like Craigslist. And so I wanted to cover today a couple of the things that we see that are really successful. I know both of us have had experience in using Craigslist to find potential interviews and prospective employees. So really, when we're looking at attracting employees through Craigslist, we've got three main objectives. First, we've got to deter people of low ambition or talent, right? It's really easy now. The barrier to reply is very low. So we need to have something that deters people with a low ambition or talent, right? We've got to also filter out solicitors so that you don't have to bother with people trying to sell you something, headhunters, all that. And then most importantly, we've got to find a great employee, right? We don't want to waste our time interviewing a ton of people. So we're going to break down today's conversation into three sections. First, we're going to talk about a few tactics to help you filter out the bad results. Second, we're going to talk about how to find the right people. And then third, we're going to talk about a few guiding principles for really identifying the people who would be a good fit for your company. And this will probably be review for most of you, but I think it's always worth touching on when we're talking about bringing someone into our company, some of the things that are really important. So first, Chris, some tactics for filtering out bad results. One cool idea that I've seen put in place is closer to the end of the job post, just put that you'll only consider people who respond with "I want to work for you" in the subject line of their email. So this really does two things. First of all, it makes sure that people can follow instructions, right? We definitely don't want an officer that doesn't know how to follow instructions. Second of all, we don't have to deal with the bots. That's oftentimes why you see like a CAPTCHA where you have to put in like the digits at the end of like a form or something like that. So we avoid the bots, and then we don't have to bother with contractors or headhunters.
Yeah, you also, John, real quick, is that, I always would ask them to submit a resume too in the line item, that you would be subject to submit a resume. So that'll get a lot of people that just think they can just send you an email and get somebody's attention. And a lot of them, if they have their resumes and they realize they're going to need to submit one, it creates some thinking at least.
Absolutely. So a cool thing about requiring the subject line that says "I want to work for you," two things. Where they're using Gmail or Outlook, you can set up a quick trick to have it filter all of the emails with that subject line into a folder called like hiring prospective employees, so that when you need it, you can go to those ones that successfully followed the instructions and submitted their resume. Right? The ones that don't match that, you can also set a filter to just automatically delete those that are just replies from Craigslist. So a real quick way to make sure that you're not blowing up your inbox, that you're not, that you're not consistently getting responses at times of the day when you're trying to get your own work done. So it's a good way to filter those out, and it's a cool time hack there. Now, before we hop into finding the quality guards, I want to quickly hear from our sponsors over at Paperless Proposal, and then we'll jump straight back into our feature conversation.
If you own a security business, I want to recommend a tool that will give you a big competitive advantage and help you win more clients. This powerful tool is Paperless Proposal Software. Paperless Proposal Software helps you create impressive business proposals in minutes, and it allows you to easily track and manage all of your proposals. Give your business a big competitive advantage by using Paperless Proposal Software. Get a free demo at www.paperlessproposal.com/Silvertrac.
Awesome. Well, it's always great hearing from our sponsors over at Paperless Proposal. And now we'll talk about how to really find the right employees while using Craigslist. And so, Chris, one thing that I recommend is that your job post would not be just a simple one-line, hey, so-and-so security is looking for, more security guards, must have a guard card, call here if you're interested, right? That just basically says anyone and everyone, give us a call or respond to this email. It really doesn't have any type of qualifying process involved. So I recommend have your posts have between 400 and 600 words, because one thing that will happen is if they're not really that interested or they have low ambition and they're not really looking for a job, then they're not even going to read the post. They're not going to bother with it.
Yeah, and you said it in the beginning, John, you got to do your own homework, right? As far as the type of accounts you're looking for to place these guards at, right? Whether it's a construction site or it's a care facility, a lot of those things matter. So sometimes you need to look at different kinds of people, whether you got kind of somebody who's got an athlete background, military, right? There's a lot of different things. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that bring a lot of things to the table and their personalities based on what their former career were.
Yeah. So, and again, we're using Craigslist just to hone in on people that we actually want to interview. You're not going to make the hiring decision based on their response, but you just want to make sure that you don't waste your time interviewing someone who wasn't at all qualified. So in doing that, I recommend that we include 4 things that we require the responder to do. 4 things. First of all, like I said, have them include that subject line, I want to work for you, or something to that sort. Second, like you said earlier, Chris, make sure they include a resume or at least job history, right? We want to make sure that they have had some experience or they at least have their guard card, right? Whatever the standards are, make sure that they're meeting those in a resume or a job history. Then 2 that we may not always think about, include 1 paragraph about why you want to work for us. Show that you're interested and that you've given this some thought, that you have thought about what it would be like to have odd hours or why that would fit your lifestyle or your personality, why you take an interest in security. And then 4th, how about telling us 1 experience in which you exceeded expectations as a security officer? Just that 1 question right there, it says a lot about your culture. It says a lot about the person that you're looking to hire, not just someone to meet bare minimum requirements, but someone that is actually looking to exceed expectation and really deliver valuable service to your customers.
Right, and these are all great topics too, John, but as it's really important for the guy looking at Craigslist or the owner of the security company to make sure he does these proper follow-ups, right? Because if you do get somebody to come in and submit all this information to you, you want to respond as quick as possible to them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's as easy as having just a template ready to respond saying, hey, we've received your application. We appreciate your genuine response, and we'll be looking forward to getting in contact with you in the future. All of these officers know what the security industry is like. There may not be work today, but there could be a ton of work tomorrow. So when they're taking the time to do that, you could let them know, hey, you're on our list of people to contact when we do have work. And this is always a good thing to be having running, because you never know when that big contract's going to close and you don't need the additional 10 guards. You don't know when a call-off's going to happen. If you have a folder in your email of qualified or at least people who you like to interview, a list of those individuals, then you're 1 step ahead of maybe your competitor who couldn't staff that position.
Yeah, we hear that all the time, don't you, John? When we're talking to new clients, they're always telling me they've picked up contracts, and the biggest part is just finding employees.
Yeah, it was one of the things I couldn't stand as a BDM is hearing the phone ring and then like wanting desperately to close the deal, and it just coming down to, can we staff the position? I couldn't stand that. I hated having to turn away business.
Yeah, well,
because of that.
the worst part about it is that if you don't hire and you don't find the quality people or new people to put in your business, you start reaching for people in your own organization, and sometimes you're taking quality people that are already positioned in an account to a new account that causes problems, right? With not only that account, or it causes you to reach out to, maybe you get an average employee, or it causes you to rush the job to where your performance would be poor on a new contract. And that's the last thing you want to do.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up here, Chris, let's talk about a couple of guiding principles that when you are in the interview process and just are kind of centered around the first impressions and a general overview for hiring. I think one rule of thumb is to just hire people that you actually like that you would have a real conversation with. And if you're in the industry and you can't stand to have a conversation with the officer that you're going to be hiring, that's probably a good sign that they're not someone who you really want to be working with.
Yeah, the other one would be how they're dressed and how they smell coming in your door. Half these guys look like they just rolled out of bed, didn't even have their hair combed. So, what's that tell you? That's a start right there before even the conversation goes,
Unfortunately, that can definitely happen. One other thing that I think that unfortunately, the industry sort of forces us in the opposite direction, but really hiring slow is a beneficial process when you can, to take a couple of times to make sure that the employee or the prospective employee is actually invested in the process, making sure that it's the right person and that you've had an adequate amount of candidates come through to make sure that you're placing the right position. And of course, this has a lot to do with the job that you're placing them at, but just as a rule of thumb, the slower that you hire someone, the better. And of course, we just did an episode on this about hiring slow and firing fast to really make sure that you have the right employees at the right spot. Yeah,
well, when I had people come in for the interviews, John, a lot of the things I did learn is that, I mentioned that we would train them and then we'd dismiss them for lunch. I took a look at who came back on time, right? Who's in the chair, 5 or 10 minutes before the meeting. Those are other things to look at too. Yeah. So just the small stuff,
I think another thing we can do in the hiring process is just to show commitment and interest in the employee. Show that this will be a mutually beneficial relationship and that you're looking for someone to be an extension of your company, which leads to let your personality and your culture show in that process. Don't make it such a cold and cut and dry interview process. See if you can begin building some rapport for someone, because this is someone who you're talking about representing your company to your customer.
Yeah, you have to be careful with the group interviews, they call them, altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's difficult when we have to hire so many, but this is so much can slip through the cracks when you're in a bigger group. I think, if you can find a way to do it in the one-on-one setting, but again, the industry sort of forces us in the other direction sometimes, so we have to think on our feet. Well, Chris, as we wrap up today, our listeners can find the show notes and a more detailed list of all the things that we've covered at silvertracsoftware.com/24 for this episode. You'll also find other amazing resources. Look, we're on episode number 24, so there are 23 other really awesome podcasts available at silvertracsoftware.com/extra. You'll see the full list. Show our sponsors some love over at Paperless Proposal. And until next time, my name is Johnny Page.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
This was a Silvertrac Extra, and we'll talk to you soon.
This has been another episode of the Silvertrac Extra. For more insider information, visit silvertracsoftware.com/extra. Listen on the go by subscribing in iTunes. Want to hear your questions answered on the show? Visit silvertracsoftware.com/questions to submit your requests.